All right, fellas, let's talk abs. I have jacked and stacked abs. They're so jacked and stacked, in fact, that they get compared to Liver King's abs, which a lot of people say are fake. So I know a thing or two about training abs. Now here's the thing. Ab training videos are the most cookie cutter thing that you can encounter on YouTube next to, fat loss videos, fit tea, diet shake, garbage content. So I want to make an effort to think outside the box on this and give you guys not only one, what the best and worst ab exercises are in my opinion and in my experience, but also ways to use them that I don't hear talked about, and then just some hard truths about getting a six-pack, either for the first time or just refining what you have already. Now, I would be doing y'all a disservice if I did not start off with the truths, the hot takes. If you're not willing to accept these things as facts, if you're not willing to do these things, one, this isn't the video for you, and two, you're never going to get a more developed six-pack or even get a six-pack for the first time if that's what you're looking for. Number one, even if you're obese and you start off fat, you can get a six-pack. You have to believe that. You have to accept that as something that you can acquire through hard work. Don't be one of those fellas that gets on the internet and says, oh, well, because of X, Y, and Z circumstances, I can never have this. That's nonsense. That's rubbish. Having a six-pack is the lowest barrier of entry achievement that you can acquire in fitness. There are people that aren't strong at all, that don't have impressive numbers on any exercise, that have six-packs. Now, if you're willing to accept those truths, let's get to the 3 best and 3 worst exercises, starting with probably like the most cookie cutter generic ab exercise that you can do. If you're new to the gym, you've more than likely done this in an attempt to get a six-pack. It's just regular crunches, aka head bobs, aka waste of your time. Now, why is it a waste of your time? 1, the range of motion is terrible, it sucks. 2, you can cheat with your hands. Or 3, it can just turn into a neck exercise. A good way that you can use this, actually, because I like to look at things with nuance. There's a gift and a curse with everything. I talked about in another video, I believe it was the one I made previous to this one, a technique that I have called pre-activation. So you take an exercise that is just garbage, terrible, basura, and you use it to activate your muscles before you do an exercise that's a lot better. Now, this is mostly for folks that have, for example, feeling their abs on a good exercise. They have trouble feeling their triceps on a good exercise. You do the pre-activation, you'll feel it a little bit better. That's probably the only way that I would use this. But this exercise overall, if you're looking to use it to get ab hypertrophy, garbage, complete trash. Now, a better alternative, and honestly, my personal favorite ab exercise is going to be a full sit-up. There's a few ways you can do that. It's either going to be on a GHD, so the bells of steel reverse hammer is how I typically do it. Most gyms have a sit-up bench. You could do it this way. Or you could just plain old do it on the floor. Hook your feet underneath something, bro, and just do sit-ups. Why is it better? Why should you do this? Now, first and foremost, pragmatically, a lot more range of motion. The function of the abs is actually being used, so you're bracing at the bottom. You're going through a full active range of motion and you're getting a peak contraction at the top, versus with crunches, you're maybe getting a peak contraction if you do it properly. And then it's more fun, bro. Like, it looks cooler. It's a lot more fun to do. You can load this up heavy. And yeah, before someone says it, well, you can load up weighted crunches as well. Look, I've put a 45-pound plate behind my head and done like a set of 50 weighted crunches. You can't do that with weighted sit-ups. Or I guess you can. There's no natural limit. There's no limit to human potential. But listen, look at my core. I put a 25 behind my head for weighted sit-ups, full range of motion, and do like sets of 10 to 12. If you can do sets of 30, 50 with a 45 plate behind your head, you're a cock diesel, you're an ubermensch, you're superhuman. You don't need to be watching this video, and you already have a six-pack. But if you're watching this video, open your mind up to the possibility that you need to use a little bit less weight or maybe no weight. Now, given my intro, there are still probably folks that are begging for, please tell me the reps and sets to use. Please tell me what to do. I'm not going to do that. What I am going to do is guide you. In terms of the rep range, bro, it doesn't really matter. Give yourself a minimum and a maximum. So I personally do, so this is where you could start off with. Start with like 10 reps. go up to like 15, and then do the same with your reps and sets. So like between 3 and 5 sets. You progress until you can do 5 sets of 15, and then once you can do that, you come back down to 10 reps, 3 sets, and you add some weight. That's literally as complicated as you need to make it. You can do between 20 and 25 reps and do the exact same thing. Like I said, it doesn't really matter. What's more important is how you use this exercise and where you put it in your training program. Now, I've done it a couple different ways in the past. I've done abs every training session. Currently, I'm doing abs every lower body training session. I'm going to tell you the benefits and the gifts and curses of both. With more weekly frequency, you're just able to do more ab exercises per week, and it's easier to fit in more volume that way, because as opposed to me doing like 5 or 6 sets on my lower body days twice a week, you can do 4 sets 4 times a week and get in a little bit more volume, and then it's not as fatiguing each session. I recommend that for fellas that don't have serious lower body strength goals or anything performance related with lower body, just because, yeah, ab training is low fatigue. You're a wimp if you can't do it after, say, something like bench press or squats or whatever, but your core not being 100% fresh going into your squat session or deadlift session is going to bleed a little bit of performance. Now, that's nothing huge, nothing world shattering, and honestly, it might be like a 5% difference. That's insignificant for most people. So for most people, just train your abs every session, about 4 sets each session. Start with 3 if you're new to it, maybe even in the lowest 2. But if you're looking to have as strong of a lower body as possible, I really like putting the abs after I do squats or deadlifts or whatever the case may be, just to make sure that they're fresh coming into the session. So if I annihilate them with weighted sit-ups on an upper body day, and then right after that, my core is gonna still be a little bit fatigued and, worn out and used from that annihilation session. Might bleed a little bit of performance depending upon how I'm feeling that day. Neither is wrong. Context is important. Use what applies to you. Now, a lot of folks like being told about mistakes so that they can avoid them, so we'll talk about that as well. It's very simple. Either start off with no weight or very little weight. Proper form with this, in my opinion, is either putting the weight, like on a front rack or behind your head. If you put the weight behind your head, start very light. Start with like 5 pounds. I only use 25 pounds myself, and I'm very strong. I have very defined abs. They're very well developed. More than likely, you're not going to be able to replicate that. In terms of range of motion, stop at just about parallel, maybe a little bit below. Anything lower, I found with most people, it's just going to hurt your lower back. You're not getting any extra stretch or benefit on the abs. You're really just going through spinal extension, and that's not doing anything to work your core harder. You're just moving more. Guys, you have to think about what you're doing when you move your body. You're not getting any extra benefit from coming down here on your weighted sit-ups. So parallel, use intelligent load, and just be smart. It's not a complicated exercise, fellas. All right, now the next worst exercise that you can do for your core is going to be one that I have a lot of personal experience with, and that's going to be military grade sit-ups. It's a meme among service members that when, like a company says, oh, this is military grade, it's such high quality, that we're like, because military grade stuff breaks all the time. Military grade sit-ups suck, and they suck so much that they actually are starting to phase them out because a lot of folks are hurting their back doing them. One, there's no engagement on the core. You're just bouncing your back off the ground, you're bouncing your elbows off your leg in an effort to do the most that you can, Gatling gun style, in like 2 minutes. And then your spine is flexed the entire time. Most people, if you take like an untrained fella, you take out all core engagement, you round his back, and then you bounce his back off the ground violently for 2 minutes, it's no wonder why folks are hurting their back on it. This exercise is garbage. A much better alternative is going to be one that doesn't destroy your spine. It's going to be hanging leg raises. Now you can do this with ab straps. If you have a pull-up tower, usually they have, like an elbow rest where you can do them there, or you can just do them hanging from a pull-up bar. I really like all 3. My personal favorite is with ab straps, if you have access to them, but you could do all 3. One, they decompress your spine, so if you do a lot of lower body training, you can put this either before or after a lower body session. The decompress before to just get you looser, or during a lower body session to decompress you in the midst of your session. Reps wise, again, it doesn't really matter, bro. Put yourself in a range, just like we talked about with the sit-ups. You can start with as low as 8, depending upon your strength level, as high as 20. Once you reach the maximum of whatever range you set for yourself, add a dumbbell between your feet. You know, I think Brian Alzeru has this Giga Brain way of adding weight to them. You could do that. Personally, I just put a dumbbell between my feet. Now, mistakes. There's not a whole lot that you can do wrong with any specific ab exercise. You go from point A to point B with your legs, fellas. It's not rocket science. Even a caveman like me can do it and get a jacked and stacked core. A couple of things that you could do wrong, I guess, are that you just don't use a good cadence. You use momentum at the bottom, so you turn it from leg raises to Tarzans to grappling hooks. Don't use momentum. Stop yourself either by having like a dumbbell that you can use to literally, stop your legs at the bottom. Or if you're tall enough, you can extend your toes and touch the floor, stop momentum, and then come back up that way. It's not a real complicated exercise. You'll know if you're doing it wrong because you're just swinging. That's pretty much the only thing that you can do wrong. Now, this last one is one that I'm quite passionate about because it is the absolute worst ab exercise that you can do. We saved the worst for last and arguably the best for last as well. Compounds are not enough for core for most people. Now, for those that you developed a decent core with compounds only, you would have an even stronger, more developed core if you trained it directly. Everyone benefits from direct training of any particular muscle group, period, no debate. Now, it is a fact that compound motions are great for developing bracing. They do demand a strong core for you to be the best at them that you can be, but you're not going to develop a core doing those things. I'll tell you what, I'll tell you some of my recent compound lifts that I've done. 505 for 6 deadlift, 405 for 9 safety bar squat, 355 for 7 or 8 reps on an ATG plat squat off a really steep heel elevation. Good morning for 300 pounds, 7 or 8 reps. My core felt absolutely nothing from any of those things. Just about the only compound exercise that is a halfway decent ab exercise is a paused beltless front squat, and that is not the most efficient way for you to work your core. Doing a paused beltless front squat for abs is like me saying this to you, bro. Go down the street to the store real quick and grab me, a loaf of bread. Okay, I'm gonna drive around the block, down the corner, up the street, and then down the corner again to come to the store instead of just walking to the store that's right in front of you. You wanna know what is the most efficient way to get to the store? Do freaking ab exercises, bro. I detest this culture that we live in, wherein we do things, and Peter Kacharian said it very well in a video that he just made actually, but something has changed with folks wherein we're not doing what we know works. We're doing something that is hard to make up for the fact that we're bad at what is really going to give us results. So we tell ourselves, yeah, I'm going to get a jacked, chunky core by doing squats. When you know darn well in your heart of hearts that you're not going to acquire that. The ab wheel is a much better alternative where your core is put under a huge stimulus, where it's under a huge mechanical disadvantage, and your core is made to be the only thing separating you from getting to point A to point B. It is the limiting factor versus a compound motion where you have your every other muscle in your body to assist you from getting to point A to point B. Funnily enough as well, because your core is made to be the limiting factor, you also have to brace a lot harder. So for fellas that I find just suck at bracing on compound movements, the ab wheel is just always something that I prescribe to them. That is something that is going to make you brace as hard as you can from point A to point B, and that is going to give 1-to-1 carryover to your compound exercise. But we don't care about carryover. We care about getting jacked and stacked abs, and just the sheer brutality of this movement is going to be probably the hardest ab exercise that you can do, other than like a dragon flag or something like that, but also one of the most beneficial as well. Now, sets and reps wise, again, it doesn't really matter. Give yourself a minimum, a maximum for both sets and reps. Where you scale this, and this is what I really want to focus on, is that you make it harder or easier by putting your feet closer or farther away to where your hands are at. So for fellas that have never done the ab wheel before, please start with the easiest variation that you can do. If you can max it out, the sets and reps your very first time doing it, perfect. But this is an exercise that demands a lot of core strength and rigidity, and if you don't do it right, you can hurt yourself. You can tweak your back. You can smack your face on the floor if your core isn't strong enough to support your body weight. What you want to do is keep your core in active flexion so that your core stays engaged the entire time. You don't want to, give yourself the ice cream scoop back at the bottom, because that's just going to hurt your back a ton. You'll feel it immediately if you just disregard my advice and you do that anyway. You'll know that something isn't right. But once you're able to do like 5 sets of your maximum number of reps, you move your feet back a little bit and then you do the same thing again until you're doing standing ab wheels and you're a jacked and stacked monster with a thick, chunky core. Now, where do you put these on your training program? I like putting them at the last session of the week, where you more than likely have multiple days off to rest, just because they're extremely brutal. The very first time that I did these, actually, I did 1 rep of a standing ab wheel just to, see if I could. I disregarded my own advice that I just gave to you. My core was so sore from just 1 rep of this that it felt like spaghetti meat for like a week, bro. For that reason alone, you're going to want to give yourself multiple days of rest before you go back to your training, because that level of core soreness that I felt just interfered with everything else. So start off with the easier version, put it at the end of your training week, and give yourself multiple days off in general to recover from this exercise. All right, that's been it, fellas. I had to inject a lot of personality into this because ab training, to me, it's like there's a million videos, guys, and they're all cookie cutter. I just needed to make this one fun for me so that I could relay the valuable information to you in a way that I enjoyed. If you have any questions about this video, please let me know down below. A video that I want you to now watch in addition to this one is my Berserk Method Self Coaching video. It's very popular with a lot of folks that are, returning viewers to this channel. If you're new to it and you're looking for a coach but you can't afford one, or you just are looking to do it yourself, this is the video for you to watch to know how to do that. If you have any questions about that video, just leave it on my most recent either community post or video, and then I'll be sure to get to you about it. Y'all have a good one.